Do you spend too much time on tedious business processes and wish there was a way to streamline them? Well, today we are going to talk about that, and I am so excited because it's something that every business needs, every entrepreneur, every content creator needs, and most of us don't even realize what this is. I feel like in the last year, it's starting to be talked about a little more, but it's something that I've been utilizing in my business for over 3 years now, and it helps me save so much time in my business. And so I'm going to give you like a quick overview on how I set this up. It is something that I cover in depth in my course, The Automated Assistant. And so if you are interested in being helped walk through this in more detail, then be sure to jump over there. I will link to that below as a quick just side note. But these are the steps that I go through to create automations inside my business. So if you're wondering how to get this going, this is the podcast episode for you. And so with that, we are going to hurry and jump into it. So this is really just an overview of my course. It's module 5 in this course. And so the first thing that you need to determine is what workflows and processes can be automated inside your business. There is lots of things that you can ask yourself with this, and you need to really go through and critique things to make sure. But the main things that you are really thinking about are tasks that you do frequently and tasks that are simple enough that a human doesn't need to be involved to do them is some really key features. So you can hand it off basically, and it could be done without you. And so is it repeatable? Does it happen over and over again? Because that is a good indication that you should probably be automating some part of that. And I will mention here that there might be sections of a flow that you have, a workflow that cannot be automated, but other sections that can. So don't think that if the whole thing you have to be a part of something, that doesn't mean that you can't automate a part of it. So just keep that in mind, that this doesn't mean that because you need to be a part of the keyword research doesn't mean that you can't do some other things. So just as a side note. And another good indicator is if you're moving information from one app to another. So from one place to another, that is probably something that you can automate. That's just some ways to kind of quickly determine if you can automate something. So make sure that you kind of look into that and really think about if it is feasible to automate. Now, the program that I use to automate with is called Zapier. And so within Zapier, you're going to assess how it automates with different apps or programs. And so Zapier has a lookup function, and I'm not going to, you can't see it on here, so because we're on a podcast. And so I'm just going to give you a link down below to Zapier, and in there you can search for different programs that you're using. And if you scroll down to the bottom, there is a place that will allow you to look up the triggers and actions that happen. And those are the key things so you can determine if it will actually be able to do what you want it to do. And sometimes you can do workaround things. So you might have to get creative, in other words. And then from there, what you're going to do after you determine if something can be triggered. And so the trigger is something that happens and the action is what it does. And you can have multiple actions, just as a side note too. And sometimes a lot of the time my trigger comes from my ClickUp management tool. And so that's switching status, then it triggers the action, and then the action creates all these different things. So just as like kind of a side note with that on how that works. So after that, you're going to create your plan. Now, the more detailed you are, the better. And so what you're going to do is you're going to map out how your workflow happens. And this is probably something that you kind of did in the first step of trying to determine what can be automated, but now you're going to break it down even more. And if you are a part of or join the Automated Assistant course, I do have a spreadsheet that helps you with this. So you can plug in some stuff and it will tell you if it's a good candidate for automation or not. It's one of those cool features that, I add into my course. And so you're going to map out each step of the automation, or not the automation, each step of your workflow to create your plan for your automation. And then after that, so we're on number 4, is you need to set up your templates or your triggers for this automation. I like to use templates. I use a lot of Google Doc templates. I also have Zapier create folders for me and that's why I recommend using a cloud-based storage to add in your final files. And I do talk about that in episode 30. And I'll link to that below too, about how do you store your files as a content creator. So if you're interested in that, I share how I do it there. And so from here, once you have all this set up, you are ready to fully build out the automation inside of Zapier. And this is something that I'm not going to go into detail with because it depends on the workflow that you're setting up and all those wonderful things. But Zapier does have examples for you. I plan on adding a video to my YouTube channel where I'm just kind of walking you through one of my zaps. That's what they're called. So that way you can kind of see how the workflow happens for me as a content creator. So if you're interested in that, be sure to keep an eye out on it. Hopefully I have it out before this video and I'll link to it below. But if not, I'll link to it later when I get to it. But yeah, so then you create them using this plan that you created and adding your trigger and then all your actions. And I do want to note that Zapier, there is a free account with Zapier, but I don't recommend using it because you are limited in the amount of zaps that you can do. And also you can only do a trigger and an action. You can't add multiple actions on the free account. And that is where I find the most value is adding multiple actions for one trigger. So I do recommend using the paid version of Zapier for that reason. You can use the free, but you won't get as many zaps or automation options with it. So I'm going to quickly mention that. And also, I want to mention too, when you're first starting this, it can be very overwhelming. So I recommend starting with a simple workflow, whatever workflow you pick that you think is very simple, that could be easy to do with Zapier. So start simple and also work on one at a time. Don't think that you have to solve all your automation issues at once. You can work on them gradually. And if you are curious, I do have a little mini course. It is called the Automation Kickstarter. I'll link to it below, where it walks you through 5 simple ways that you can start using automation in your business and for yourself today. And it's a very inexpensive mini course. I want to make sure that people start getting into automation. So if you haven't really started it, this is a good place to start. It talks about email automation, also some setting other things up inside your business that will automate the process of things. So if you're interested in that, be sure to check it out. But with that, those are the 5 steps that I go through when I create an automation workflow with Zapier. And again, I determine what can be automated. I assess how it can be automated using Zapier, and then I create a plan for it, and then I set up the templates and the triggers that are going to allow it to happen. And then I actually build the automation inside of Zapier. And this might seem very time consuming and overwhelming. And I'm going to be honest with you, it does take a lot of work to set up, but in the long run, it's going to save you a lot of time. So don't be afraid to do it and don't hold back because it's going to take you a little bit of time to set up. And if you do want help with it, be sure to join the automated assistant because I walk you through it. I give you templates. I give you, oh my gosh, I just give you videos and videos of my workflows and other people's workflows. I'm going to be adding to that sooner than later. And so make sure you join so that you can start automating your business.